There's a place so secure, even the guards fear it, where sunlight is a privilege and silence is the loudest sound you'll ever hear. Here, the most dangerous men in America spend 23 hours a day alone, locked inside concrete boxes designed to break the human mind. No riots, no escapes, no second chances. This is ADX Florence, the world's most secure prison. And today, you're about to spend 24 hours inside it. Every sound, every step, every breath in this place tells a story of killers, terrorists, and masterminds who push society so far that the system built an entire fortress to contain them. But what you're about to see isn't just about the inmates. It's about control, power, and what happens when humanity is stripped away. Welcome to 24 hours inside the world's most secure prison. The morning begins at 6 a.m. in the remote high desert of Colorado. The sun rises behind the Rocky Mountains, casting long shadows over the small town of Florence. Locals call this place Prison Valley. Within a few square miles sit 4 federal prisons, but one stands apart. A gray monolith of steel and concrete surrounded by motion sensors, sniper towers, and razor wire spirals. The United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility, better known as ADX Florence. No one enters this place casually. Every movement is tracked. Every visitor, screened, scanned, and escorted. Even the warden's footsteps echo like gunshots in the silent halls. At 6:42 a.m., a transport van pulls through the final checkpoint. Inside, an inmate whose name alone once made headlines. He's not told exactly where he's going, only that this is his final transfer. Handcuffed, shackled, blindfolded. Every turn is disorienting by design. By the time the blindfold comes off, he's standing in a narrow concrete cell, 7 feet wide, 12 feet long. A small slit in the wall lets in a blade of light from the outside world he'll barely see again. He's been processed into Control Unit H range, home to some of the most dangerous minds alive, terrorists, cartel bosses, and serial killers. To the guards, he's another file number. To himself, he's now part of a living experiment in isolation. Welcome to day 1. Time moves differently here. Every second is measured, every action controlled. At 7:30 a.m., breakfast arrives, cold oatmeal, powdered milk, and a slice of bread. Meals are passed through a small slot in the door known as the cuff port. There are no dining halls, no human interaction, only the echo of metal against metal. By 8 a.m., the lights flicker brighter. This is count time. Guards walk the tier, scanning through thick glass. Inmates are required to stand in view, silent, motionless, like statues in their cages. Failure to comply means loss of privileges, or worse, a trip to the box, the punishment cell within a punishment prison. Each prisoner spends 23 hours a day inside a cell. The 24th hour? That's recreation. But it's not what you think. A steel door opens into another box, slightly larger, with a concrete floor and 20-foot walls topped with mesh. They call it the dog run. For 60 minutes, an inmate can walk in circles, stare at the sky through wire, or just feel the air on his face. It's the only glimpse of freedom they get. The walls have no graffiti, no conversation, only silence. Because here, talking too much can make you a target. ADX Florence wasn't built just to punish. It was built to erase, slowly, methodically. The goal isn't to kill the body. It's to crush the spirit. Inside these walls are men whose names have shaped headlines and haunted nightmares. In one wing, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, once wrote letters that never saw daylight. A few cells down, Ramzi Youssef, the man behind the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, recites verses under his breath. In another block, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bomber, lives under total communication restriction, his every move observed, his every word monitored. Each man has his own version of hell. Some pace endlessly, talking to themselves. Others stare blankly at walls, counting days that no longer matter. One inmate once told a psychologist, "The silence here doesn't make you calm. It screams at you. You start hearing things that aren't there." In ADX, even the strongest minds begin to fracture. Prison psychiatrists call it SHU syndrome, a slow deterioration of sanity caused by long-term isolation, hallucinations, paranoia, self-harm. It's not the violence that breaks them. It's the quiet. But inside ADX, it's not just the inmates who live under pressure. The guards are part of the system too, pieces in a machine built on control. They walk corridors lined with reinforced glass, never knowing what waits behind the next steel door. Many suffer from insomnia, anxiety, and burnout. One former officer, known only as Daniels, said, "You can't work this job and stay the same. Every day you look into those cells, you see what humans become when the world forgets them." Officers rotate every few months to prevent attachment or fear from taking root. Rules are strict. Smiles are discouraged. Humanity is a weakness here. Yet behind closed doors, there are moments that challenge even the toughest guards. An inmate whispering through a vent, begging for news of his family. Another refusing to eat for weeks. And some who, after years of silence, simply stop speaking altogether. It's easy to think of ADX Florence as a fortress of punishment. But inside, the lines blur between justice and cruelty, between protection and torture. And for those who work here, that question lingers long after their shift ends. At 10 p.m., the facility enters full lockdown. Lights dim, motion sensors activate, and the prison hums with the low vibration of surveillance. Inmates retreat into darkness. Some pray, some write letters they'll never send. Others just stare at the ceiling, waiting for sleep that never comes. In one cell, the inmate from this morning lies awake. He's been here only 16 hours, but time already feels infinite. He can hear the pipes clicking, the distant clang of another door, the whisper of his own heartbeat. In ADX Florence, a day feels like a year, and for many, a year feels like forever. Tomorrow will bring the same walls, the same silence, the same reminder that here, escape isn't just impossible, it's unthinkable. 24 hours have passed, and yet, for the men inside this fortress, time never really moves forward. Inside ADX, even the architecture has a purpose. Every angle, every shadow, every beam of light is calculated to control, to contain, and to condition. The walls are made of reinforced concrete, layered with soundproof insulation. That means when you scream, no one hears you. Each cell is a polished metal mirror, bolted to the wall. Not glass, never glass. A stainless steel sink and toilet share the same unit. A concrete bed with a thin mattress, a small desk, and a stool, all molded from the same slab of stone. There are no corners you can hide in, no shadows deep enough to disappear. The window is just 4 inches wide, angled toward the sky, so you can't see another human being. They call it controlled environmental design. In reality, it's a psychological cage. Cameras watch every cell. Thermal sensors track movement, heartbeat, breathing rhythm. In here, the prison doesn't just guard you, it studies you. Prisoners start to change. They talk less. They move slower. They start to obey patterns not because they're told to, but because they stop remembering how not to. One inmate once said, "After a while, the cell starts thinking for you. You stop being a person. You become the routine." In ADX Florence, control isn't enforced by violence. It's engineered through silence. At 9 a.m., an officer slides a manila envelope through the cuff port. Inside, 3 letters. They've been screened, redacted, copied, and inspected. Communication here is a privilege, one most inmates rarely get. The man opens the first letter. It's from his mother, written 3 months ago. The ink is faded, but her words still sting. "I don't know if you'll ever come home. I just hope you still remember what home feels like." He closes his eyes. In this place, memories are both salvation and torture. Every inmate inside ADX once had a story before their name became a number. Fathers, sons, soldiers, students. Now, their identities are reduced to files in a cabinet and voices in the dark. Some inmates fill notebooks with letters they'll never send. Others draw imaginary windows on their walls with toothpaste, pretending they can see beyond the concrete. Isolation does strange things to the human brain. Psychologists who studied long-term solitary confinement here say the brain begins to atrophy, literally shrink in key regions responsible for emotion and reasoning. Prisoners forget faces. They lose track of time. Some stop dreaming altogether. By noon, our inmate folds his letter and stares at the slit of light creeping across the floor. He's still human, but the walls are working on him. Not every man in ADX Florence is violent, but every man here has learned one rule: survive the silence. They develop codes, small signals, subtle gestures, communicated through plumbing pipes or tapping patterns on walls. A single tap might mean you good. 2 taps, still breathing. It's forbidden. If caught, they lose what little recreation time they have. But to men who live alone in concrete boxes, those small sounds are oxygen. The guards pretend not to hear it sometimes, because they know cutting that last thread of humanity can push a man to the edge. There's an unspoken rule among officers. You keep them alive, not comfortable. One inmate, known only as Reyes, was transferred from a cartel safe house in Mexico. He hasn't seen another human face in years. But through the vent, he still whispers stories about the outside world, about beaches, rain, and the sound of children laughing. He knows someone's listening. He just doesn't know who. In a place built to erase voices, survival becomes an act of rebellion. By afternoon, tension thickens. Officers switch shifts. Security protocols intensify. But even inside the most secure prison on earth, control comes at a cost. Behind those walls, a hidden war brews between the institution's purpose and its conscience. Guards watch men slowly unravel, and there's nothing they can do but follow the rules. One officer writes in his journal, "We're told these walls are for justice, but some nights when the lights hum and the cells are quiet, I can't tell if we're protecting society or burying souls alive." Psychologists have pleaded for reform, arguing that ADX is a clean version of hell. The Bureau of Prisons disagrees, calling it a necessary measure of safety. And between those two extremes are human beings, guards, prisoners, doctors, all caught in a system that doesn't blink. For inmates, control means survival. For officers, control means sanity. Lose either one, and this place consumes you. At 6 p.m., the facility goes into administrative lockdown. No one knows why. Rumors travel through vents. An inmate in another block tried to harm himself. Medical teams move quietly through corridors. No chaos, just the silent choreography of containment. They call it the box within the box. A special containment cell inside the already isolated units. Walls lined with soft padding. Lights dimmed to constant twilight. A place designed not for punishment, but for protection from the mind itself. The man inside it tonight, he'd been here over 15 years. A genius turned murderer, who once wrote that isolation was the only true justice. Now, he whispers to walls that never answer. The guard will watch him through glass all night, and by morning, the cycle will begin again. In ADX Florence, there are no riots, no fights, no chaos, only silence, slowly eating away at what makes a person human. Midnight, 24 hours complete. But for the men inside this fortress, time doesn't move forward. There's no sunrise or sunset that means anything. Every day is identical to the last. The inmate lies on his concrete bed, staring at the ceiling vent. Somewhere beyond it, someone else is doing the same thing. They'll never meet, never speak, but they'll breathe the same air and dream the same impossible dream of freedom. They say ADX Florence was built to keep evil contained. But after 24 hours inside, you start to wonder, does it contain evil or create it?